Hey friends, welcome back to the Mountaintop Kitchen. I'm Stone. Today we're channeling a bit of that bold New York City bakery magic with these thick, gooey, zesty lemon ginger cookies, bright lemon zest, chunks of creamy white chocolate, and chewy bits of crystallized ginger, all packed into one big cookie. Big city flavor straight from your oven. Let's bake. Okay, so we're gonna get started with these New York City style zesty lemon ginger cookies. Now I have visited Levain Bakery several times at their Georgetown location where I have tested their lemon cookies. Right here's the proof. And today we're not exactly making the Levain-style cookie. We're making the Levain-style cookie, but I thought they were really good. They're very buttery, very lemony. Being that I thought that they were just a one-note cookie, I thought a big cookie like this really needs to be more special. So I went through a whole list of ingredients that I thought could complement lemon, and I tried different things, and what I finally came up with, the best combination is lemon and ginger. So today we're making the lemon cookie New York style, but with crystallized ginger added in to give it an extra flavor and extra wow. So that's what we're doing. Okay, so it's really important that you start with cold cubed butter. And so here we have about 1 cup or 226 grams of unsalted cold cubed butter, and that's about 2 sticks. So we're just going to plop that into our mixer. Now, you can do this with a hand mixer, but I find it's a lot more work, especially with cold butter and big cube chunks of it. So I like to use a stand mixer for this. And also, we're not really going to be creaming the butter and the sugar. We're just going to get it into a chunky combined mixture, but not creamed. It'll be like fluffy, but not creamed fluffy, if that makes any sense. You'll see in a minute. Okay, so here are our sugars. We have 3/4 cup of granulated sugar, about 150 grams, and we have 2/3 cup of light brown sugar packed, or about 140 grams. So we're going to just plop that into our bowl along with the butter. Make sure we get it all in there. Okay. And let's get this going. Remember, we're not creaming, because if we were to cream this, these are big cookies, they would spread more. We don't want them to spread. We want them to be nice and chunky New York City style cookies. So cold butter, cubed, and not super creamed. So we're only going to do this for about 2 minutes. Okay, it's ready. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the mixer, and you can see that you can see that the butter and the sugar are combined, but they're very clumpy and sandy looking. Okay, and that's exactly how you want it. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add our wet ingredients into this mixture. Stop the mixer because we don't want the butter to get warm. So we are going to start with 1 lemon. This is a lemon ginger cookie after all. And we are going to get the zest of this lemon using a microplane. Okay, so we have our lemon zested. We have 1 large lemon zested here, a washed lemon. We're going to plop that into our mixer. Let's get that in. It's turned off again because we don't want to melt that butter. And we need about 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. So I know that that's going to be about the size, about the amount of more than half of a lemon. So let's just squeeze, if I can get some space here. Thanks to my paddle in the way. Okay, just squeeze that in there. Remember, 2 tablespoons. You can give a tad more if you want a punchier flavor, but that should do the trick. Okay, and you also, now this is optional, but I do recommend it because we're using white chocolate today. We're not using lemon chips. So I think because of using just the white chocolate, it's probably a good idea to add in this lemon extract that we're using. So about a half a teaspoon of that. So let's just get that in there. Okay. And then we have 1 whole egg. Make sure you don't get any shell in there. If you do, fish it out. Okay, 1 whole egg. And 1 egg yolk. So a little worried about doing the egg yolk over the bowl, so we'll do it here. Let me just crack this open. And 1 egg yolk. So you just want to let you can save the egg white and use it for something else later, but we don't need it today. So let's just get this egg yolk out. Okay, 1 egg yolk. There we go. And let's wipe the hands off. And let's get to mixing this. You just want to mix it until it's combined. You don't want to overmix again because we don't want to melt that butter. So let's go ahead and just get this on. Slow. And as soon as I see there's no more egg, I'm going to turn it off. Okay, I think the egg's pretty much mixed in. So we have our wet ingredients in. We have our butter and our sugars. Next comes our dry ingredients. So let's get those ready. Okay, so let's get our dry ingredients together. To start with, we have about 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. That's about 280 grams. Let's get that into our sieve to sift. And we have about 120 grams or 1 cup of cake flour. Now, if you don't have cake flour where you live, you can make your own. So about 105 grams of all-purpose flour and 15 grams of cornstarch. That should do it. So let's get that in there. Okay, and we have our leaveners and some salt. So we have about 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 3/4 teaspoon of salt. And we're using a fine sea salt today. We try to stay away from table salt. It's kind of harsh. So a kosher salt, a sea salt, a Himalayan salt, those work really well. Okay, so we'll get that in there as well. All right, let's sift all this together. And any lumps, just press it on through. And I like to go ahead and take a whisk and make sure that it's really integrated well. You could even double sift this if you want. And let's put in half of the flour. Okay, and we're going to mix that on a slow. We do not want to develop the gluten. So you might even want to pulse it a little bit just to get it going. When you see most of the flour in, stop. Remember, we don't want to overmix. Scrape down, get the flour off the side of the bowl, because you do need to scrape down always when you're using a mixer like this. And make sure you're scraping down on the bottom too, because you'll have some flour hanging out down there as well. Okay, so let's get the second half of the flour in. Let's go from this side. Okay, there we go. And again, we're going to just pulse because we don't want the flour flying out. Okay, that's ready. Let's go ahead and scrape down one last time because we do still have flour from the second edition, that's kind of creeped up on the side of the bowl. So we want to get down to the bottom. Okay, you can see that the cookie dough is pretty stiff. This might be hard to do with a hand mixer. You can do it, but it just take a little bit more arm work. Okay. All right, that's mixed in. So now we're going to add in our mix-ins. You can do this by hand, but since it's such a stiff dough, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the stand mixer and just pulse it a few times. It doesn't take long to get it mixed in. So I have right here, I have white chocolate. Now it's important to use a high quality white chocolate. You don't want to use a lower end one because they taste kind of greasy and overly sweet. A good white chocolate is going to serve you better. This is Lindt chocolate. So I just chopped it up. In a bakery setting, of course, they're going to use chocolate chips because it just makes more sense, mass quantity and all that kind of stuff. They don't have time to chop up chocolate. But at home, we can chop it up. And also, maybe bar chocolate is more readily available in the grocery stores than chips. I don't know. Here it is. Okay, so I'm just going to dump all this in there. Okay, and we'll get that mixed up. And that was about 340 grams or 2 cups of chocolate. And I'm just going to pulse it until I see that it's, pretty much mixed throughout the dough. And I think that's got it. And then the last thing that I'm going to put in is the 20 grams or about 2 tablespoons of crystallized ginger. Now you can get this in the grocery store in the spice section. I'm lucky though, however, because I have friends that just came back from Turkey and they brought me some straight from Turkey. So I have Turkish crystallized ginger and I've chopped it up pretty fine. And I'm going to dump that in and get an extra kick to these lemon cookies. So let's get all that in there. And again, I'm just going to pulse. This is pretty thick. So our dough is done. I'm going to do a little clear up here, clean up my area. And we'll come back to shape these dough balls, okay, into cookie dough balls. Okay, so we have our cookie dough ready, and I'm telling you, it's smelling very lemony and gingery. It smells so good. Can't wait to get these baked and in my mouth. Okay, so if you don't have a kitchen scale, which many people don't, you just want to take your dough and divide it in half and in half, keep dividing it until you have 8 pretty much equal sized pieces. But we have a kitchen scale, so we're going to weigh it. And we know that each dough ball should be about between 165 and 170 grams. That's about 6 ounces. So we're going to go for 165 or 166. So zero out my scale. Always make sure you have clean hands. I just washed mine. Okay, I will get a couple of these done and then I will speed it up. These are big cookies, remember. These are New York style. So almost at 160. Okay, just a little bit over 165 right there. So right now I'm just forming the balls and we're going to shape them in. I don't want to have my hands on the dough for too long because hands are warm. We don't want to melt that butter. And you need to work fast. Okay, so I have my 8 dough balls now. So now I'm just going to roughly shape them. We need to get these into the freezer as quickly as possible because we're going to bake from frozen. That will help to maintain the nice chunky size that we're looking for with our cookies. Okay, so in order to also do that, we want to make remember, try to keep your hands limited on there, your time on the dough. So we're going to want to make almost like a tube. And that's the shape that we're going to freeze these in so that when they bake, they will still, they'll be nice and tall. And then in order to get that nice kind of rough top on there, you can just poke your fingers down in the tops. Okay, and I have one more secret ingredient that I need to run get. I'll be right back. And that secret ingredient is some flaky sea salt. Okay, so let's just sprinkle a little bit. We'll do half of them with some sea salt. Just sprinkle on top. Not a whole lot, but just enough to give an extra little salty flavor, which is always good on cookies. Okay, we'll just do these 4. Okay. Now, what's important is to get these into the freezer quickly. So I'm going to wrap these in plastic and pop them in the freezer. Be right back. Okay, so I cleared up my workstation a bit. And by the way, this is the brand of white chocolate that I use today. This is the Lindt Classic Recipe Blanco. Well, I'm in a Spanish-speaking country, so Blanco, but white chocolate. You do want to stay away from some of the lower end white chocolate because it's kind of greasy and I don't like the taste of it. So it has a lower percentage of cocoa butter in it. Okay, so through the magic of YouTube and because I prepared a batch last night, I do have some that are already frozen, as you can see. Now, it's really important that when you bake these, that you keep them separated by quite a bit distance because they're going to be about almost 5 inches across. So you're going to have to leave about 3 inches between them. Okay, so I do have some sea salt sprinkled on top, as you can see here. And we're going to bake these in, well, if you're using a conventional oven, about 390 to 400 Fahrenheit, or that's about 199 to 204 Celsius. It's a very high temperature. They're frozen, and you'd want them to set a little bit as they're cooking and not spread so much. So that's why the temperature is high. Now, if you're using a conventional oven, then you're going to want to bake these at, if you're using a convection oven, did I say conventional? If you're going to be using a convection oven, you want to set that at about 375, maybe 370 Fahrenheit, or about 190 Celsius. We're going to bake these for we're going to check them at 20 minutes and might go to about 24 minutes, maybe longer. You want them to be nice and golden on top. You don't want them to be burnt on the bottom. You might get a little bit of an edge that's really dark. That's okay. Nice little crunchy edge on one side or something like that. So we're going to pop these in the oven and we'll be right back and see how they turn out. Okay, our New York style zesty lemon ginger cookies are out of the oven and they've cooled down. We only made 3. They're big cookies. So if you haven't subscribed already and you're watching on YouTube, there should be a little button right down there that you can press. We'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe. Also, please like, share, and comment on the video. It really helps us to grow the channel. We appreciate it. We think we have a lot of good stuff to share. We'd like to get it out there. Okay, the moment of truth. These cookies have cooled down and we are going to test them. So here it goes. Let's break this one open right here. Look at that. That is looking so good. All right, let's taste this baby. Wow. Yum. So if you're just a lemon purist, don't put the ginger in. But I can tell you, this crystallized ginger that I chopped up and put in here really takes this cookie to the next level. So I really encourage you to try to do that. You can get it in the spice section of your grocery store. It's pretty common to get. So, wow, this is really good. It's nice and brown on the bottom and just really tasty. Nice and soft. And chewy in the center and a nice golden crunch on the outside. Really good. And since I know exactly what a Levain lemon cookie looks like, because I've been there and I bought them on more than one occasion, and I put a picture right here again so you can see that they look almost the same, but ours have ginger in them. Okay, so if you like this recipe, then why don't you check out this one right here? I think you're going to really like it too. And thanks for stopping by the Mountaintop Kitchen today. See you later. Delicious. Bye.